Hey everyone, welcome back to the next episode of Scaling Smarter. My name is Ali Taylor. I am from Wisdom in Wayfinder, joined by my co-host Frank Majorana from JustWorks. How's it going today, Frank?
It's going great. It's going great, Ali. I'm really excited for a conversation with Michael today. And you and I had a great meeting yesterday, which was fun as we continue to try to see how we can grow this podcast and this brand and as we said, like talk to really good business owners, really good business leaders
Yeah.
to try to help the community. So yeah, I'm doing great. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great as well. I also enjoyed our conversation yesterday, especially as we were talking about some of the goals and things that we want to achieve for Scaling Smarter, including some of the ways that we want to grow, maybe even talk about sponsorship at some point. But all those different conversations are things that I think our guest today would be super helpful in helping us sort of address or even talk about at some point because he does this for businesses. And of course, I am talking about Michael Haynes, who is a small business, or not small business, but a business growth specialist, specializing in go to market strategies. The name of his company is Listen, Innovate, and Grow. And he works with those professionals on customer acquisition, growth, retention. He's also the author of Listen, Innovate, and Grow and the creator of the Buyer Air methodology, which he might share with us a little bit later. But first, we just want to say thank you, Michael, for joining us. For those watching, Michael is currently in Sydney and he's joining us at 5:30 in the morning. So we truly appreciate you making the time to be here.
Thank you, Ali and Frank, for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, really looking forward to having this conversation with you both.
Yeah.
Well,
All
also,
right, awesome. Yeah, Frank, go ahead.
no, absolutely. So we talk about go to market, you talk about all this, but you've done a lot. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Michael. You're in Sydney. Tell us
Sure.
how you started. Just give us the background on Michael.
Okay, so I'll give the background on Michael Haynes. And first of all, yeah, first thing people always say when they meet me, they hear that I'm in Sydney, and then they meet me like, Michael, you don't sound like an Aussie. So living here in lovely Sydney, Australia, I've been here now 26 years. Originally from Toronto, Canada. So
Nice.
born, raised, educated in Canada. So hence the lack of the Aussie accent. By virtue of being Canadian, also working internationally, being also an avid traveler. It was my love of travel that got me here to Sydney back in 2000, just before the Sydney Olympics. Yeah, and I've been here ever since. My career started off working in large corporate, working with firms on how to be very customer-centric, market-driven, doing it in a big corporate setting, but then always had the love of working with small and medium businesses. I come from a family of entrepreneurs as well, so made the transition to work more with small, medium companies, and in that B2B context, and to help them thrive and succeed in the world of business to business, which I believe has massive opportunities for small, medium businesses. But you have to know how to navigate and work in the B2B environment, which is different, which is changing, and is becoming more challenging in these times due to a number of factors.
Yeah, definitely. And especially with your background, your international background, I'm sure you're seeing it on a much grander scale than like I personally may see being, most of my clients are in the US or local. We're here in July. What are some of the things that you're sort of seeing either locally or globally in terms of strategies that people should be thinking about or should be adjusting?
Sure. So Ali, so I do work internationally. Australia, Canada, the United States are kind of my three core markets. I'm seeing some commonality though across the board when we're talking about small and medium and mid-market companies operating in B2B. These are challenging times. There seems to be a lot of uncertainty. Buyers, decision makers are taking a lot longer to make decisions. So the sales cycles are a lot longer. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of false starts as well. I myself have experienced some false starts where project's supposed to start next week, and then you get to next week and it's like, client's gone MIA or it's had cold feet. So longer sales cycles, it's taking a lot longer. So people are finding it more challenging. How buyers buy, how buyers are making decisions is a lot changing as well. More people are involved, longer decision cycles. And because many firms are now seeing that they're a bit stuck. We're in, now July, and they're not hitting some of the numbers and some of the targets. There is a tendency, gentlemen, for folks to want to do more activity. Oh, I just need to get more leads. I just need to be more networking. So challenging times, not hitting the numbers, and there's a tendency to default automatically to just doing more. And I'm hearing a lot around leads, sales, and networking without taking a step back to really look to say what's going on. Is this really a marketing sales problem, or is it potentially other issues, factors that we need to be addressing? So that's kind of a common element that I'm kind of seeing right now.
Yeah.
Michael, could we hop to the how people buy real quick? Because the reason why I say that is, I was reading an article the other day. It's actually on LinkedIn. It was talking about cold calling being dead, right? And at the end of the article, it didn't give an answer. it didn't. It just kind of talked about, and it made me think as far as like the way people buy is different than it was 10 years ago, or probably even 5 years ago. But in your experience, obviously you're an expert in this. How are you seeing like changes in how people buy? What can business owners kind of take from that?
Okay, great question, Frank. So in the world of B2B, and in the world of B2B right now, how people buy is that there are more people involved in the decision-making process, and they are looking for really getting, they want to be getting advice, insights, recommendations on how they're going to be achieving their objectives. And so there's been a bit of a transition in the world of B2B. If we went back to 2021, the underlying question is, how do I solve X? So how do I, enter a new market? How do I gain more customers? Now that is still part of it, but very much now it is who can help me solve. So it's very much understanding who's going to help me achieve my business objectives. I'm putting that down to a number of factors. I think part of the issue is that there is this massive amounts of information. We get inundated through experts online saying do this, do that. People are just being pulled in various different directions. I think there is a bit of mistrust, a bit of skepticism between AI, all these experts, and just being inundated. So there is a tendency now that business leaders, business decision makers, they've got key priorities, they've got key challenges of what they want to achieve, going into new markets, getting clients to spend more, expansion, scaling, but they are now looking for trusted sources of information that can really work with them and guide them. So it's gone from how do I solve to who can help me solve. So this has implications then in terms of how folks buy. It is about really being visible in those networks. So people are already tapping into their networks and ecosystems, their professional associations, business advisory groups. They're really tapping into networks and ecosystems that they deem as to be trusted, valid sources to give them what I call AIR, advice, insights, and recommendations to their key priorities and objectives. So the key to how folks buy and to tapping into that is to really understand who are the decision makers, and that can vary and increase. There tends to be often now in many companies, such as in the technology sector, more people involved in the decision making across the organization. So people from finance, operations, procurement, etc. So we need to understand who's involved in the decision making, what are their priorities, and where are they going for those trusted sources of advice, insights, and recommendations, and being visible, being there, providing that value, advice, and guidance, working with. So really being present and really immersing yourself, being what I call in the market within those ecosystems where your clients and prospects are operating.
Yeah. So, man, thank you for sharing, because I feel better about, some of the longer lead times and the conversations and some of the ghosting that is happening. I've been talking to other professionals and they've been experiencing the same thing. And, there does get to a point where you start to wonder, like, all right, is it something that I'm doing? Like, am I just not getting my stuff out there more? Do I need to start posting on social media more? Do I need to start emailing my contacts in order to get, those conversations? Or why are these proposals, these meetings sort of falling apart sort of out of nowhere? And it seems like it's something that you're seeing everywhere that's happening.
Yes, that's exactly right. There is more of these kinds of stalled signals, stalled events happening. And I think the key, though, so it is happening. So yes, you're not alone. Many of us are experiencing it. I think that is a signal and impetus that we need to then really take a look and to understand in our particular scenario for our business, what exactly is going on. Is it a sense of, because it could be a number of factors. Is it a sense of longer decision cycles because our clients are not engaged enough? Are we not providing the right kinds of evidence, insights that they need? Is that it? Is it perhaps a change in market dynamics in terms of what's going on, that perhaps really market opportunities and what's happening in certain industries and or geographic markets? There are events and things that are changing, hence perhaps what you're providing, how you're providing and delivering might need to adapt and change because there are certain things happening with your industry sector. Is it something that's happening internally in terms of is there, are all your departments who are involved with onboarding, training, delivery, service and support, are they all aligned? Are they, kind of working in alignment in the same way? Are there certain things happening with certain specific clients? So this is a good time, I think, to have a bit of a reset, to kind of do a bit of a audit, listening to determine what is going on, what are really the drivers that may be causing some of these impediments, some of these hurdles that we may be facing as we're at that kind of mid-year mark.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to what you were saying with the being, you said solving for a problem. I'm solving for who's going to help me solve for X, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of mentioned being a trusted advisor, but often, as a salesperson myself, me saying I can solve your problem does not necessarily make you say, "Oh, I trust you. You can solve my problem," or me saying, "This is the problem. Let me help you." You kind of hit on kind of their ecosystem, them leaning on their network. What's the recommendation on your, especially when you talk about B2B, like when folks want to go out, because we deal with a lot of solopreneurs too, right? And they're trying to get themselves out as being an expert. What's the recommendation on saying, all right, well, how do I become that trusted advisor? How do I get that message out?
Right. So, great question. So, okay, where to begin here? So, first of all, it starts with you need to be leading. I know many people in B2B are working in a sales role, but you need to be leaning with insights, as in ideas, recommendations, best practice solutions. You need to understand what are those key priorities and challenges. So, so if you're, working for a accounting CFO firm, what are the key priorities and challenges of that accounting and CFO firm? It might be around growth. Then you want to be providing what are some best practices, solutions, ideas that you can provide with regards to that solution, that issue that they are addressing. And it's about providing best practice advice, providing them insights about market dynamics. So it's not talking about your solution that your product provider X. It's providing insights that to say, to grow your accounting and CFO firm, are you aware of the right market, of the opportunities that exist X and Y? These are the issues and concerns if you're looking to tap into deep tech firms and you're looking to become the CFO in deep tech firms. Are you aware that these are some of the key issues that they're grappling with? Can you provide some best practices and solutions to that? So it's really about acting as that trusted advisor, being solution agnostic, and providing advice, insights, and recommendations around those key challenges. So what are the best practices? What are some key insights around industry development, customer needs, etc.? Giving them some advice and points of view as to some of the different methodologies and options. What are some of the watch ups? So it's really being that advisor around the priorities and challenges, and not speaking around your particular product or service that you're trying to sell. That's a key to it. Second thing, in terms of being able to become that trusted source, again, it goes back to the ecosystems. Understanding where does your clients and prospects go when they are looking for trusted advice. So, so who are they listening to? What industry experts? What periodicals are they reading? What industry associations and groups, business advisory groups that they are members of? And these are those kinds of publications, podcasts, groups, events where you want to be present at, be able to share and be that advisor to provide advice, insights, recommendations, and guidance. That's where you want to be visible with your content, delivering your point of view, your advice, because by doing so in those ecosystems, with those publications, with those groups, on those podcasts, because they're deemed as trusted sources, you being there and leading and providing that advice, insights, and recommendations in those channels, publications, at those events, it's by association that it's deemed, okay, well, you're presenting at this event, well then, Frank, you must, you must be a trusted person that I should be leaning in and listening to.
Yeah. Well, there's something that you just said that I like to tease out is you talked about having a point of view, right? And earlier you were talking about like with AI and sort of the slow burn to trust that's sort of happening, right? And I think, and I'm beginning to see that everywhere, where you can have people who can type something into AI and sound like an expert, sound like they know what they're talking about, to someone who's uninitiated, or if they're just in the business, they haven't had time to really vet that person. So how do you? So when it comes to like the point of view, what are some recommendations that you have about how how people can really stand inside of whatever their perspective is and really get it out there? Is it just being in those places like you were just saying and trying to be more visible, or is there something else?
I would say having a point of view. So, by virtue of as being a professional, we are professional service providers, being on top of your game. So knowing what's going on in your industries with your clients, within your areas of expertise, understanding what are the best practices, what are the challenges, and formulating your own points of view and based on your experience, what you're seeing from other experts, what's happening in the industry, and developing. So leveraging your experience, leveraging your knowledge or insights, and developing a point of view as to what are the possible options or key considerations, and developing an informed point of view that will help your clients and prospects based on those priorities and challenges. That's the way forward. And so, but that's again by virtue of you doing the work, by virtue of you leveraging your experience. I personally, at this point in time, I am not fearful of AI, because you can put stuff into AI, but garbage in is garbage out. I'm finding a lot of decision makers are highly seasoned. They know their business. They know their stuff very well. You need to come in as the expert and really be able to show that you understand their industry, their issues, and really bring that expertise, that experience, and incorporate that. That is the key to success. That is what's going to get your prospect and client to lean in and say, oh, Ali and Frank know what they're talking about. Okay, let's continue the discussion. Let's move forward. So
I was having a discussion with we had an attorney in one of the groups that they're part of, and they were giving a presentation, and we started talking about AI, and they started talking about like as far as like, oh, I can ask AI to create a contract or whatever it may be, right? And it can do it, but really the expertise and the difference comes from the questions. AI doesn't know questions to ask. You as an expert, you're asking the questions which make all the difference. And as long as you know the questions to ask, you're gonna be able to use AI as a tool, and it's not going to be something that's going to use you, if that makes sense.
So Frank, that's exactly spot on. So AI can be a good tool to leverage to help you do your analysis and so forth, but it's a prompt of what you put in, and it's leveraging your expertise to say, okay, give me a point of view. Tell me what I'm missing given in industry X. I know from experience X, Y, and Z. So it's being able to leverage that knowledge about the industry, your clients, etc., your experience, and being able to incorporate that into the prompts. that is what is going to enable you to leverage AI to help you develop content, meaningful insights, etc. But you still have to be able to very much, leverage on your expertise. So being on the pulse as professional service providers, doing what I call listening to the market, listening to your customers. So being on the pulse of industry, market trends, development, what's happening with your clients and customers, with your competitors. We have to be on top of our game and be on our game on as to what's happening. So reading your periodicals, going to events, watching certain podcasts, listening to other experts, listening to your clients, seeing what you're experiencing and learning from your own engagements with your clients and customers. You have to be on top of all of that, because it's putting all of that together, which will help you develop your expertise, your point of view, determine how best to service your clients, to identify where the gaps are. And then in terms of AI, to enable you to really leverage that, because you can then incorporate that expertise, insights, observations, etc. And you can incorporate that as you're trying to do certain things.
Michael, what are the questions that you think business owners or businesses are not asking their clients and they should be?
Question.
What are the questions? I would kind of almost take it one step back, Frank, and I would say more broadly, I think part of the issue is that many businesses that I see, many decision makers, many people working in firms are not having discussions with their clients, with their decision makers, to understand where are they at, where are they moving forward, what are the key challenges, what's working, what's not. So not doing that listening to really understand where your clients, your prospects, where are they at today, what are they grappling with, where are they moving forward, not having those discussions so they have that insight from that level, because that will help determine where potentially why are you having some of this stalled growth, why are you having some of these barriers, are you not demonstrating the right capabilities, have their needs and requirements changed, or something else happening within their industry? Is it how you're delivering service and support or lack thereof? So having discussions with the decision makers, having those interactions with your clients and your prospects to really understand where are they at, what do they need, what are the proof points, what evidence they need, where are they moving forward, having those kinds of discussions so you really have an understanding from a decision maker point of view what's happening, where they're at, what they're grappling with. That's where I find it's often missing, because it often it's just assumed, because having those discussions will help reveal what are some of the key triggers and pain points, what are some of those key factors that can really determine whether a client's going to stay with you, whether they're going to buy more, whether that prospect is still just going to be sitting on the fence. So having those kinds of discussions, I think, are quite important with new clients that you're looking to bring in. So for client acquisition, but it's also important for retention and expansion as well.
Yeah. Well, I think double for the retention, because we know that it takes a lot more time, money, and effort to get a new client than it does to just take care of one that you already have, and maybe do some upselling or cross-selling to them. But how do you what's the recommendation for, you have your CEO, you have your CFO, you have your COO. They have different priorities, different pain points that speak to them. How do you balance the different challenges and perspectives and concerns of all those different people?
That's a great question. Often, again, it's often quite useful because there are multiple people involved in the decision making, trying to have some discussions with some of those decision makers, key champions, to understand where they're at, what's their point of view, what do they see as the priority, and from what lens that they're coming at. So if you can have meetings, if you can periodically tap into and meet with some of those folks so that you can get their priorities and gain from their perspective, because often they're interacting as well, but they're also coming from different viewpoints.
Yeah.
So if you can meet with them individually, with some clients, I've done strategic client reviews where we bring in, we have kind of workshops and we bring in cross-functionally to understand cross-functionally what's going on across the organization and getting those different points of views. So you can work out, in terms of if it's a current client, okay, what's the action plan? What are the things that we need to be addressing and touching on that are going to be meeting some of the drivers and key issues of the CIO, the CIO versus CTO versus operation versus the CEO.
Yeah.
So trying to get that insight and point of view cross-functionally, and then kind of working out, well, what is going to be the plan? What needs to be the priority? Because across those different perspectives, there could be some key areas that are particular urgency and understand, and then how are we going to action those? So it's not trying to do everything. It is trying to prioritize what are going to be those, 2 or 3 commercial objectives, initiatives that we need to be focusing on.
Have you ever had
alignment too? Because sometimes some of the issues is that even in SMBs and mid-market, departments are working in silos. They're not aligned on what has to be done. And so it's making sure that there is that cross-functional sharing, dissemination of, and that we're all working to one playbook, one action plan, and that there's alignment and we're working well according, because sometimes part of your problems can be an internal problem from execution, not necessarily just an external as to what's happening with the client, the customer, or what's happening in their industry.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Frank.
No, I was going to say, so in that piece, right? Kind of, we had 𝘁𝗵𝗶𝘀cie 𝗱𝗲 from Culture Index in here one day, and we were talking about culture and teams and building, and you're kind of talking about the communication piece. When you're evaluating that piece, like you're the owner, right? What's the steps you take to take an audit of what's like, are we functioning well internally, right? Because you don't necessarily know, because you think you're doing everything the right way. What are some of the, I guess how would the CEO or president identify or start to identify some of these things? Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So if you're talking from an internal perspective, you do want to see, okay, are we all aligned on terms of, what's the vision, what's the strategy, what are the key priorities, what are the key actions? So you want to see, is there alignment and agreement and understanding of, what is that playbook, that action plan that we're all working towards? I think it's also important to check in to see, are we, is there cross-functional engagement and interaction? How often are we communicating and sharing information and insights? Those are some of the things I think that you want to be making sure that is happening. Are the teams that need to be working together, are they indeed working together? So when, do we have a common view in terms of what's the overall strategy, action plan when we're looking at some of our key clients and key accounts? Is there a kind of an account management plan for those key clients and accounts? Do we have a plan? Is there one? Is everyone aware of it? What are the key actions? What's happening? Are we all aligned on, okay, for company X, which is one of our key clients? Do we have that plan? Are we all working towards it? Where is it at? So these are some of the things from an internal perspective that you want to be looking at and assessing, because that can be part of it. Yeah. But I do think, going back again, I do think one of the first things that you want to be doing before making assumptions is kind of taking a step back and doing a bit of a reset audit point of view to understand where are you at currently, and if you are not quite where you need to be midpoint 2026 here, to be looking at to say, okay, well, what are some of the reasons for it? Is it from an external perspective and looking at what's happening in terms of our industries, our market? So there's a bit of an audit that can be done that I often take my clients through from an external perspective. So, what's happening? Do you have an understanding of where clients are at? What are their needs? What are their pain points? Do we have an understanding of where they're at, what they're focusing on, what's happening with their industry? So doing some of that listening at a market level as well as a client level, then looking at internally what's happening internally. That's kind of part of what I have clients do as part of a 90-day reset.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I was about to ask, like, so if they were going to create like an action plan, like a 30, 60, 90 day kind of a plan, unfortunately we're towards the end of July, so the first 30 days is complete. But for the next 60, 90 days, what is something that they should be focusing on to get ready to wrap up Q3 nicely, but then prepare for Q4?
Right. So they can undertake this action plan. I'm going to call it a 90-day, but you can in practice condense it. Let's start off by doing a little bit of an audit, a bit of a reset, taking a step back and looking to say, okay, let's start looking from a client perspective. Well, first of all, looking at your results. So seeing where you're at, looking at what are some of those numbers, what are those results, what are they telling you? Then starting to take a look to see, okay, well, let's look and see what's happening from a client point of view. So maybe it's about looking at who are some of your key clients, key accounts. Are we up to date? Do we really have an understanding, where are we at? So that could be talking with your sales folks, talking to maybe a couple of those key clients and customers. Do we have an understanding of where they're at? What are their key challenges? What are they focusing on? Any issues that they may have with us concerned? So getting a bit of a sense point of view from a client perspective, taking a little bit of a pulse look at what's going on within those industries and markets that we're targeting as well. Are there things happening there as well? And then again, looking back in alignment with, okay, well, what's the data telling us? And then looking internally to see, okay, and then from that, working out, okay, well then, given what we know of what our results are telling us in terms of our revenue numbers, proposals, etc., going through a sales conversation, where are some of those problems? And then looking internally, based on looking at our customers, looking at what the market, identifying what are potentially some of the 2 or 3 priorities that we need to be focusing on, given the results we're seeing and what we're seeing from looking at our clients, what's happening in the market. Are there 2 or 3 priorities that we need to be focusing on? And then working out the action plan internally with the appropriate folks to say, this is how we're going to be moving forward.
Nice.
So bottom line is what I'm saying, as opposed to just automatically doing more activity, we haven't hit our numbers and we're just going to be doing more and more, taking a step back and doing a bit of an audit, what's happening internally, looking at clients, prospects, even if you've lost some as well, what's happening there, what are some of the drivers there, what's happening in some of the industries and the markets we're operating in, looking at our numbers, see what our numbers are telling us, and then working cross-functionally to say, okay, what are some of the priorities then? A couple key priorities, 1 or 2 that we can look to move forward with and act on, that's going to have the most appropriate, the most significant impact to hopefully turn the ship around and get us back on track and moving forward.
Michael, without a name, obviously, I'd love to hear of a company you took through kind of that audit and the pivot you made and kind of some of the ideas and strategies, just to give a little bit more color for the folks out there, as far as because it's so go to market is, you hear it all the time, and obviously it deals with how you presenting yourself to the market, right? but in actuality, what were some of the actual actions that were taken and stopped and changed? If you share some of that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so some of the actions I've taken with clients have been, one, often they haven't had any discussions with some of their new, with some of the clients that they've had. It's been a while, so they haven't had any discussion to understand what's going on. And in those clients, they've had new management come on board and priorities are changing. So that's often been one thing that's often has had significant help. Secondly, making sure that everyone is all aligned in terms of what's happening from a client management, client action plan point of view. Often, I've had with a couple clients, teams working separately and not talking and interacting with each other as to how they're going to be working and moving forward. So that has made a significant real difference. Also, as a result of that, some of the things internally in terms of some of the service and support and having to revise some of those processes, because that had been an issue with some of their larger clients who things had changed and within the client side, but in terms of the operations, service, and support, in terms of how they're really supporting those customers, and some of those agreed upon levels and timelines needed to be shifted. Those are all things that came about as a result, really, from fundamentally, really revisiting and having some discussions with some of their key clients, and having some cross-functional discussions as well to really understand what's going on and what needs to be changed.
Yeah, it's almost like you're a therapist in a way. Like it's like, all right, listen, we gotta sit down, we gotta talk about like our priorities, and we gotta talk about your past relationships and like how your current ones are working, so that we can actually grow this business.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not to try to necessarily try to do everything. It's really trying to, understand, one or two key areas, try to identify one or two key areas that you can focus on to then, try to, turn things around and get things moving forward, as opposed to just automatically just saying, oh, we need to get more leads, or we just need to be doing more activity. Because often there's a tendency to get busy and do more without a sense of really understanding, okay, what needs to be actually shifted. Because I did have another example, a case where I had a client where we had to shift in terms of where they thought the market opportunity and the industry sector that they were going to focusing on, things had changed. And actually, you know what? They actually had to make a shift and moving to another sector, because we found this is really not working. Given some of the dynamics that was happening in that particular market, it's like, we're no longer best suited and it's best aligned. And so again, but it's by doing that step back and taking that bit of that reset, that bit of that audit, to really understand what's going on. And then you can determine what are those, one or two key things. I recommend starting small, particularly for small, medium, mid-market businesses, so that you can have the focus on those one or two key areas and try to start to shift the dial and move things forward.
Yeah.
Kind of shifting focus a little bit from the reset, right? So I'm starting a business, and you kind of talked about this before. A lot of business owners don't know what their ideal client profile is, right? They don't know they have an idea who their customers are, obviously, but they don't know what their ideal. So what's the steps for, if there's anyone out there listening, they're like, yeah, I like more business, but I just want more, I need more clients. And that's kind of their answer. I need more clients, I need my services. Yeah. What's the process that they should go through to try to figure that out?
Great question, Frank. So typically what I like to have do with my clients when we need to determine, because they're operating, and I had one of my accounting firm advisory clients, they were doing clients all over and like, yeah, we want to grow, we can service everyone. We need to then again do that internal company analysis to understand, okay, you've had lots of, well, where are you getting the actual successes? So it's about doing that internal analysis to say, so who are the clients that you are making lots of money actually profitably as well? So who are the clients that are making you lots of money, that are generating strong revenues? Who are those strategic clients that also maybe, key advocates and champions? So doing that internal, similar to like a win-loss analysis, where are we getting the wins? What kinds of customers in terms of industry, size, location, what kinds of service offerings, product and service offering solutions, where are you having that success in terms of revenues, in terms of profitability, in terms of clients that are being advocates supporting? Are we seeing some of those patterns? Are we seeing patterns of where you're having wins and success? Then you want to marry that then as well when you're seeing where you're winning. Like, so if you're winning as a IT technology firm, you're winning with, working with second tier banks and with deep technology companies. I'm making these two sectors up. Yeah. Okay, so this is where we're winning. Then you may want to take a look at those subsectors, financial services and deep tech, just to understand the market dynamics. Do these seem like these are industry sectors that are going to be promising for us? But I would say starting with where you're having your wins and your success, and then comparing that with the market opportunity. That's kind of the way I often have clients start to say to start building out their ideal client profile.
it's kind of like, regardless of whether it's a reset or just trying to figure it out, the key, talk to your clients.
It's talking to clients, but
And
it's
each
also
other.
looking at the data as well. It's not just talking to clients, it's looking at the data. It's looking at the data as well to say, where are you having your wins? Where are you having your successes? We want to look at a revenue profitability standpoint, but if there's other, but you also want to consider those where you're having, you have a strong client advocacy, those that are championing you. And seeing what are those patterns, because that can help you determine, then build out that firmographic profile to say it's in these industries, locations, size of businesses, with these kinds of challenges, priorities, and then you can start to build up the profile of who they are, and then work out then who are the decision makers, and then where and how do they go for their advice, insights, and recommendations. But starting with where you're getting your wins, and where you're having success. I look at it from the financials in terms of revenue, share of wallet, profitability, but also those that are your big advocates and champions, generating lots of referrals, and seeing what are the patterns across those to start to build out what that ideal client profile looks like.
I love that.
That's awesome. Michael, what was the first time that you realized this is what you're passionate about, this is what you want to do? What was that moment for you?
It's kind of probably going back to my career back in corporate. I've always, and probably my last corporate role, where I was working in a telecommunications company as head of customer research and analysis, and working in a company where different company departments didn't like to talk to each other, but being able to get them to have that market lens, that customer lens, and getting them on board on, okay, this is how we all need to work together, and this is what the insight of understanding your clients, your markets, your buyers means for you, Mr. Products, you in service and delivery, you in onboarding, and getting folks to operate, and getting these folks who previously just kind of did their own thing and made lots of assumptions. That's probably what, I guess, when the light kind of came on, that this stuff is pretty interesting, and it's interesting and unique in a B2B perspective.
Yeah, and you were good at it. You were good at getting them all to come to the table to.
Yes, and some of them, yes. Yeah, I had some pretty interesting, colorful executives who had some interesting point of views about each other. So getting them to get into your room without certain excluders, which I will not repeat here on this forum, was, I have to say, an accomplishment in and of itself.
Well, Ali, I love that question, because it leads to, and I appreciate all entrepreneurs. Like anyone, grew up in a family that owned a small business. My father started a heating and action business. So anyone who's willing to take the risk, hang up their own shingle, and do their own thing, I commend.
Yeah. 100%.
When you did that, what finally gave you enough courage to say, I'm walking away from corporate and I'm going to do my own thing?
What gave me the courage? I think it was a leap of faith to a degree. Leap of faith, having, I guess, a good support network. So my sister has her own law firm in Canada. My cousin and her husband, they have their own businesses, so that helped as well. Getting a lead for a first client, and a first sizable engagement at that too. That kind of, that really helped. And when that first project engagement did go well, so though I would say it's a combination, but it was kind of a leap of faith to say, you know what, I want to make that shift. I just kind of said, this is what and then it kind of fell into place from there. But that's not to say there were not hiccups, bumps, things I would definitely have done differently. There were a lot of learnings along the way. It wasn't all smooth sailing. And I believe any entrepreneur who says it's all smooth sailing and it's all roses and it's all like some of the success stories that you see here on LinkedIn, with flying business class and living the high life. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of expletives. A lot of frustration, bang your head against the wall, a lot of stress. It's not all smooth sailing. And there's constantly learning and constantly reinventing and having to shift, pivot, figure out. So it's not for the faint of heart. But yeah, I would say it was a combination of those three, just kind of the leap of faith, having some entrepreneurs in my family who kind of said, yeah, you can do this. And then also having a friend / colleague who said, oh, and I have someone who could be your first client. So
I know you probably weren't ready for this question, but you opened it up. So what's the one thing you would do different?
Okay, well, I'll be quite transparent. When I first started out, working for yourself and working by yourself are two different things. And so when I started as a solopreneur, I thought I will do it all. And then anything I kind of not good at, I'll just kind of brush it under the table. I'm not a technical person. So when you're talking about databases, some of the technical aspects and some of the things I'm not good at, that would stuff I would kind of managing your website and stuff. All of those things, technical things, I'm not that good at. I'm not good at.
Yeah.
Early days, I kind of skirted around it, kind of avoided, put it off. You need to know where is your zone of genius, what you're good at. But those other elements, like managing your email list, your website, you need to get people to can support and make sure those elements of your business are being managed. I didn't know that at the time. It didn't really kind of click in. That's probably one of the things I would have definitely would have done differently. I also think it's also easier now in 2026. There are a lot more options for small, medium businesses to be able to get support around email, website, coaching, all the different elements. Yep. There's a lot more available now than there was when I started in 2011. I would also say, in terms of affordability for us as sole practitioners, as small businesses as well.
Huge difference. I'm stealing that line. Know your zone of genius. I love that.
I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm rubbish at. All that, I have my marketing ops person, Anna Delaney, up in Brisbane. She is my right hand. She manages my email lists and all that stuff to get articles on. That's her zone. She creates my SME CEO reports. I write the content, but Anna makes it look schmick, professional, the whole works. I know what I'm good at, and then what I'm not, you get the right people to deliver for you. And that's how you get the best, best quality outcome. But it took me a while. It took me a few years. It took me a while to get to that point.
Love it. Thank you, Michael. That's awesome.
Well, I do want to mention something else about Michael. I know that you are a public speaker. You do go out and do keynotes and stuff. So would you mind just sharing a little bit about that? Give yourself a little plug of where you've spoken, who you like to speak to, just in case anybody that's watching wants to bring somebody.
Sure. So I have done keynotes here in Australia, in the US, speaking to leaders of small and medium mid-market growing B2B companies on how they can build and grow their businesses. That is what I love to do. Yes, I am based in Sydney, Australia, but as I often say to folks, and I might have even said to Ali, where there's commercial jet, Michael is there. So I have spoken at a couple of conferences. I've spoken in Toronto, Texas, here in Sydney. So yeah, getting in front of my people, B2B leaders of small, medium businesses looking to grow. And that can be to do keynotes, to do workshops, those more interactive panels. I love doing all of those things because that's where the magic can happen. You can unlock the conversations, insights, and ideas to help our folks thrive in the world of B2B.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Cool. Well, we said a lot. We said a lot. This is great. This is absolutely great. We can't thank you enough for coming on, Michael. This was fantastic. And like I said, stealing your zone of genius, which is a fantastic line. With that said, you kind of said it where people can find you, but any last thoughts of wisdom for folks out there, and any last ways of people that they can connect you before we get to do?
Sure. So I guess my last point from an insight perspective, we're doing this late July. It's a good time to take a bit of a reset, to take a look at where your business is at. To help you move forward to determining what you're going to do for the balance of 2026. 2027 is not too far off. So, take that reset before you're looking to ramp up to do more activity, be it networking, sales, hiring, generating more leads. Take a step back to say where you're going, Where are you at? How are you performing? Understand what might be some of those factors, drivers internally and externally before you then look to move forward. That would be kind of my key overall outtake. And in terms of connecting with me, I'm active on LinkedIn. So reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me a DM. Also go to my website, listeninnovategrow.com. That's
Awesome.
it.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, I will link all of that information into the show notes. This is going to go live on YouTube. So if you're watching us on LinkedIn or on Facebook, make sure you also go over to our YouTube channel and follow us and like and subscribe there. And again, Michael, thank you so much for being our guest today. It was really great having you on, and I loved everything that you shared. And yeah, I think I think we'll talk about bringing you back either towards the end of the year or maybe what to do for beginning of 2027.
Absolutely. Thank you both, Ali and Frank. I really enjoyed this discussion. It was good fun. You guys are great at what you do. You make it fun and engaging. So thank you for providing me with this opportunity.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.